Welcome, friends, to an extra exciting episode of A VGM Journey, and I'm your host, The Messenger. The track that we're playing into today's show is In a Snowbound Land from the game Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest, and it was composed by David Wise. I can't believe it's that time of year again where we get to celebrate the holidays and also have the Secret Santa special, which is making a return for a 6th year. I mean, I can't believe that it's been 6 years already, but yeah, it's pretty crazy. And if you're not at all familiar with the Secret Santa special, it's this little holiday event that I like to do where I have the various different VGM Journeymen share tracks with each other, and that they get assigned someone to pick a track for, and they have no idea who's getting them what until, well, this episode. And I will say that everyone has really brought their A game this year. There's a lot of good stuff. Let's say we kick it off with the very first gift, which is going to be coming from Ryan Steele for KungFuCarlito. This is the title screen music from Otogi, Katsugeki, Mameda no Bakeru, Oracle's Saitarou no Sainan, and I'm sure I butchered the hell out of that. And it was possibly composed by either Satoshi Okubo, Kosuke Inoue, Hideaki Miyamoto, Shinji Yoshikawa, Akihiro Juichitani, Eri Tanaka, or Kazushi Umeda. So that awesome track that you just heard, that was the title screen from Bakeru, and it was composed by a whole bunch of people that I'm actually not going to name again. And this was a gift from Ryan Steele to KungFuCarlito, and Ryan had this to say. It's a banger. Bakeru is a spiritual successor to Mystical Ninja. Since Konami don't care about its properties anymore, someone has to do it. And I think Carlito will like its funky vibes. Merry Christmas. I gotta agree with you on that, Ryan. I think Carlito will definitely like this. And on top of funky vibes, it also has a very Asiatic vibe to it as well. So we both know how much Carlito loves his Asian cinema. And I also thought it was a really good track to start things off with. So yeah, I think mission accomplished, Ryan. I'm pretty sure Carlito's gonna love this. We're going to move on to our next gift exchange, this time coming from HeatOOveride for Chris Murray. And that HeatOOveride picked Anima Ergastulum from the game Ys 9, Monstrum Nox. And this was composed by Hayato Sonoda. That track that you just heard, that was Anima Ergastulum from the game Ys 9 Monstrum Nox. It was composed by Hayato Sonoda, and this was a gift from HeatOOveride for Chris Murray. And HeatOOveride had this to say.
What's up, everybody? This is HeatOOveride, and I'm ready to bring the Christmas. Ooh, yeah! When the messenger contacted me about the Secret Santa episode and said that I got Just a Punk, aka Chris Murray, I was ecstatic. Both me and Just a Punk share a similar love for role-playing games, role-playing game music. As you all know, I am a huge climatic build kind of dude. I love heavy stuff, bass. You can put that back to the DJ Magic Mike days. Dig it? Yeah. But what I thought was cool is that when Just a Punk and The Messenger did an episode together, they did the Trails of Cold Steel, which was composed by Hayato Sonoda of the JDK team. Of course, that means Japan Development Team, the Falcom Sound Team, practically wrapped up in a bunch. So immediately, I thought of the way that I can make a Kevin Bacon 6 degrees, 3 degrees, whatever way you want to make this happen for Just a Punk. So I went back to some similar works that the JDK team has taken care of course, being a J-Rock infused kind of score. Well, I saw that they had their hands in the Ys. Back in the day, I played Ys 3. It was the only Ys game that I ever played. But at one point during this game, I had actually found a point where the monsters had actually spawned and would keep spawning. You know, this is just a normal thing. So I started beating those monsters up, and just like a superhero at RPGs, always finding the exploits for the grind. I'm a grind kind of dude. I get in the grind, and yeah, right? Getting those levels. I destroyed that game. I found an exploit, and I had a great time with it. How this connects is because Team Falcom did do the episode, and they did the soundtrack for Ys 9. And that is the song. I chose a song from Ys 9 for this episode and for you, Just a Punk, because I thought that there was no other way to say Merry Christmas than to put a link together between your episode with the messenger and a video game that I beat a long time ago. Have a great day, everybody, and always remember to bring the presents. Merry Christmas, everybody. Have fun. Happy holidays. And Just a Punk, man, much love, brother, man. I hope you love this song because the build is exactly why we love RPGs. Yeah.
I couldn't have said it better myself, and I actually wasn't really expecting a super long message from HeatOOveride for Chris Murray, but that was pretty awesome stuff. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that he's going to love this track, so I just want to say that you did a really good job, HeatOOveride. We're going to move on to our next gift. This time it's a gift from KungFuCarlito for Beachykins. The track is A Moment of Rest from the game Dragon's Crown Pro, and this was composed by Hitoshi Sakimoto. That track that you just heard, that was A Moment of Rest from the game Dragon's Crown Pro. It was composed by Hitoshi Sakimoto, and this was a gift from KungFuCarlito for Beachykins. Beachykins has told me that they really enjoy emotional sounding music, and that I think this sounds pretty much up their alley. And the game itself definitely has a really nice art style to it, even though some of the character designs are a little questionable. And this is definitely a soundtrack that I would need to look into because I had no idea that Hitoshi Sakimoto was involved with this. And based off the title and just the vibe that this track really gives, I'm assuming that this is in between levels and in between the action that takes place in these various different levels. So I'm thinking you did a really good job on picking this track, KungFuCarlito. I'm pretty sure Beachykins is going to love this. We're going to move on to our next gift, this time coming from Martyrus for Professor Tom. And Martyrus picked Tipsy Muse from the game Zenless Zone Zero, and it was composed by Yang Wutao, Song Pian, Li Shang, and Zhao Bin. That track that you just heard, that was Tipsy Muse from the game Zenless Zone Zero. It was composed by Yang Wutao, Song Pian, Li Shang, and Zhao Bin, and this was a gift from Martyrus for Professor Tom. Martyrus was telling me that this track plays in Bardic Needle, a vinyl record shop in 6th Street, where the store owner Elfie helps you tune, dismantle, and check the database of disk drives, and that disk drives are items equipped by agents to raise their stats. Well, I will say this, knowing absolutely nothing about the game, I'm taking that it's an RPG with a big musical element to it. And I'm not saying musical like everyone's singing and dancing a whole bunch, but I'm just saying musical like music is just a big aspect of the game. And knowing how much Professor Tom loves the Persona games, I think I do get kind of a Persona vibe from this. More of just one of those side locations that maybe the various different Persona gangs like to hang out at. And that maybe they would hang out at a vinyl shop where they could get these disc drives that improve their stats. And I think, Martyrs, you would have to tell me, like, are there different genres of music? Like, if I was listening to heavy metal, would my defense go up? Or maybe freeform jazz and that my speed goes up? Who knows? But I think that's pretty cool. And I'm sure that Professor Tom's going to love the gift. We're going to move on to our next gift, this time coming from Muddle Madness for Ryan Steele. And that Muddle Madness went with the track Sky Base from the game Sea of Stars, and it was composed by Eric W. Brown. That awesome track that you just heard, that was Skybase from the game Sea of Stars. It was composed by Eric W. Brown, and this was a gift from Muddle Madness for Ryan Steele. Muddle Madness didn't really have too much to say about this. He just asked the question, what do you get for the Man of Steel? A bop. That's what. And I gotta agree, this was definitely a bop. And the game itself is really good too, even though I need to finish it. And I know that I have a bad habit of saying that I'm not much of an RPG guy, but it turns out more and more that I actually do like RPGs, and that this is a really good one. And while its predecessor, The Messenger, no relation by the way, takes on a more Ninja Gaiden meets Metroid kind of vibe, Sea of Stars is more of a throwback to Chrono Trigger, which a lot of people would consider to be the greatest RPG of all time. But for the track itself, it's definitely got a nice retro synthy vibe to it that I'm sure that Mr. Steele would love. And I also want to shout out another person in the VGM podcasting community, Volt Supreme, who is super big into synthy sounding tracks, and that I'm sure that he would also dig this track as well. So we're now going to move on to our next track. This is coming from Troy Jan for Jungle Toad, and that the track is Round 2-1 from the game Wings of War, and that it was composed by Noriyuki Iwadare. The track that you just heard, that was Round 2-1 from the game Wings of War. It was composed by Noriyuki Iwadare, and this was a gift from Troy Jan for Jungle Toad. All Troy Jan had to say about the track was that he wanted to find something uncommon but good sounding. And good sounding this is. I find the track to be a little chaotic, but also uplifting in a way where it's marching drums really gets you, I don't want to say hyped up, but definitely motivated. And yeah, you gotta be motivated if you're gonna be this angel character in a horizontal shoot 'em up where you're just firing stuff against these demons. And the game itself, it's a little odd by some of the gameplay that I've seen. And at the end of each round, there's a boss. And one of the bosses, I will say, was definitely very interesting looking. Probably a little phallic. And I guess it's not too surprising when I found out that the sprite designer for the game was also the same guy that designed a lot of the sprites in Choaniki, which is a game that's filled with a lot of, I would say, homoerotic imagery. But overall, it does seem like a good time. And the soundtrack is actually really good too. So, Jungle Toad, I'm pretty sure you're going to like this one. We're going to move on to our next gift, coming from Professor Tom for HeatOOveride. The track is Battle on the Big Bridge from the game Final Fantasy V Pixel Remaster, and that it was originally composed by Nobuo Uematsu and arranged by Yuko Kamiyama and Hidenori Miyanaga. That track that you just heard, that was Battle on the Big Bridge from the game Final Fantasy V Pixel Remaster. This was originally composed by Nobuo Uematsu and arranged by Yuka Kamiyama and Hidenori Miyanaga, and that this was a gift from Professor Tom for HeatOOveride. I think he did really good on this one, Professor Tom. Knowing HeatOOveride, he's the kind of guy that he likes big sounding music, something with a lot of energy and badass sounding, stuff that really, what he likes to say, bring the pain! He doesn't really say it like that, that's just more me though. But I also know that he has a real soft spot for RPGs. And I will say that it is really hard to live up to Nobuo Uematsu's original works, but the arrangements that were done for these various different Pixel Remaster games, I gotta say, this is quite well done. And I find it very fitting with the original Final Fantasy music. I just have a good feeling that HeatOOveride's going to love this. So I just want to say once again, Tom, fantastic gift. We're actually going to keep the RPG train going, and that we're going to go for something a lot more modern with this next gift. This is coming from the last Riken for Bedroth, and that he is bringing the track Monaco from the game Clear Obscure Expedition 33, and that this was composed by Lorian Testard. That track that you just heard, that was Monaco from the game Clear Obscure Expedition 33. It was composed by Lorian Testard, and that this was a gift from the Last Riken for Bedroth. The only thing that Last Riken had to say about this track was that he didn't care who he was going to be Secret Santa for. He just wanted to slap this bad boy in their stocking. And though it seems like this could be the classic Christmas idea of buying gifts for someone with not the intention of giving them the gift, but maybe keeping the gift for yourself. But joke's on Last Riken, I think Bedroth is going to really like this track. And what's weird though is I haven't really delved too deep into Clear Obscure Expedition 33's soundtrack, and that I thought it was a lot of French-sounding, beautiful type of music. But this track is just so different than what I was expecting. I feel like this would go with something like Cowboy Bebop or something. Very jazzy, and for some reason, I feel like this is probably boss music or some kind of battle music. It's not gonna lie. It might be fun to beat up some guys while listening to this track. I gotta say, last weekend, you might have unintentionally made somebody's Christmas, and that somebody is Bedroth. So good job on the track. We're gonna move on to our next gift, this time coming from Jungle Toad for Muddle Madness. And they brought the track 13 from the game Mahjong Madness, and that it was composed by Mr. or Mrs. Unknown. That track that you just heard, that was track 13 from the game Mahjong Madness. It was composed by an unknown composer, and that this was a gift from Jungle Toad for Muddle Madness. Jungle Toad says that he picked the track because because Mahjong Madness for Muddle Madness has excellent alliteration, but it also sounds like a classic jungle track, and that Marble Madness was too obvious. But he also describes the track like Alex Reese's Pulp Fiction and a bit like Doc Scott's Unofficial Ghost. But he swears that there's a track with the same exact detuned bell melody in this Mahjong Madness track. I will admit, Jungle Toad, that there's not really a whole lot that I take away from this specific track. And that I also agree with you that it definitely has that jungle sound to it. Very primal like. Which is kind of funny to me because this is just a simple Mahjong game. And I feel like Muddle Madness would get a good laugh out of the whole alliteration thing with Mahjong Madness. I think we're going to move on to our next track now with a gift from Bedroth for Carly. And that Bedroth picked the track Northeast Frost Street from the game Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And that this was composed by Yuta Ogasawara. That very festive sounding track that you guys just listened to, that was Northeast Frost Street from the game Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It was composed by Yuta Ogasawara, and this was a gift from Bedroth to Carly. And speaking of Carly, we have a special guest for this segment only.
It's me! Bedroth, I just wanted to personally thank you. That track was really good. I liked the beginning with, like, the chill percussion, and then that little guitar riff in the middle, and at the very end, when it built up to, like, this orchestral part, it had everything. It was really nice. Plus, I like Kirby.
Yeah, I guess you kind of picked the track because you played a track from it on our Thanksgiving episode last month. Almost said last week.
It felt like last week.
And for some reason, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is a very festive sounding soundtrack, I guess. I never really thought about it like that, but playing it in the last couple episodes, I guess it is.
It sounds very cheery.
Well, you heard it right here that you did a good job on picking your Secret Santa gift for Carly. It definitely sounds like she enjoyed it quite a bit, and we're going to move on to our next gift, this time coming from Chris Murray for Purnell. And Chris picked the track Battle Junction 1209 from the game The Legend of Heroes Kaino Kiseki, and that this was composed by Shuntaro Koguchi. That track that you just heard, that was Battle Junction 1209 from the game The Legend of Heroes Kaino Kiseki. It was composed by Shuntaro Koguchi, and that this was a gift from Chris Murray for Purnell. And Chris had this to say: "Hey Purnell, fellow Ouroboros Dodger, Bracer, adjacent party member, and longtime comrade in all things Falcom. The moment I drew your name, I knew I had to pick something worthy of a Divine Night Awakening, a track with enough heat to melt an orbital circuit. That's why I went with Battle Junction 1209 from the newest Trails entry. This song doesn't just play, it's S-craft straight through your expectations. It's got that unmistakable Falcon flair, driving percussion that hits harder than a Rain Ogre mode finish, guitar lines sharp enough to be forged by Zoro, and a melody that could easily carry a whole chapter's worth of plot twists. It feels like the moment the party links up, boosts the combo gauge, and you realize the boss has absolutely messed with the wrong Class 7. And since you and I share a deep love for all things trails, and let's be real, for ease too, consider this my way of handing you a fully charged boost gauge, may it accompany your next trek across Zemuria, your next run-in with the courageous, or maybe just enjoy your morning coffee when you need that extra Adol level fearlessness to get moving. Happy listening, Pernell. May your drops be rare, your crafts always crit, and your soundtrack forever Falcom tier. Dang, Chris. That was actually pretty awesome. And the track itself, I thought that was really good too. I would say definitely in line with a lot of Falcom's stuff. So I know this was for Legends of Heroes, but I could definitely picture this for something with ease. And obviously, I know how much the both of you love Falcom. And I think with you specifically, Chris, so I know how much you love Trails. And I could definitely tell that getting Pernell this gift was a very easy one. We're going to move on to our next gift, and this one is coming from myself for Scott McElhone. And I picked the track Gameplay from the game NHL 2-on-2 Open Ice Challenge, and it was composed by John Hay. That track that you just heard, that was Gameplay from the game NHL 2-on-2 Open Ice Challenge. It was composed by John Hay, and that this was a gift from me to Scott McElhone. I actually thought this was a really easy gift to give, and that's because I know that Scott is a hockey-loving nerd like myself, and even though he likes the wrong team from Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, I believe that he could totally get behind a track like this. And for a hockey game, yeah, it is a bit odd that the gameplay music is on the funky side and that slap bass is really cool. And the game itself, I think it's a blast. It's pretty much NBA Jam if it was an NHL game. and that it was also made by Midway. And the game itself was over the top with high speeds, and the characters, I don't know why I said characters, I meant the players, they do crazy moves like really fast spinoramas, or they would do a flip as they're like making a slap shot. They also had the on fire mechanic from NBA Jam, where if a player scores 3 goals in a game, they're on fire and they get unlimited stamina, and whenever they shoot the puck into the net catches on fire. And though my experience is with the PlayStation 1 version of the game, it does seem like it is a really fun arcade game as well, though I've actually never seen one out in the wild. But I think among sports games, I think the game is highly underrated and so much fun. So I just want to say I really hope that you like the gift, Scott. We're going to move on to our next track. This is coming from Purnell for Martyrs, and that Purnell picked the track To the Death from the game The 100 Line Last Defense Academy, and that it was composed by Masafumi Takeda and Jun Fukuda. That track that you just heard, that was To the Death from the game The 100 Line Last Defense Academy. It was composed by Masafumi Takeda and Jun Fukuda, and this was a gift from Purnell for Martyrs. Purnell had this to say: "Here's my gift to Martyrs, one of my top 3 tracks of 2025. And of course, congratulations to him on his recent show milestone." Well, that was definitely short and sweet. And I will say congratulations to Martyrs for his 200th episode of his show ReVGM, where he plays remixes and rearrangements and re-recordings and all kinds of really good stuff. And I think this track here is some good stuff as well. I'm not sure what the context is, but I feel as though it's a safe bet to say that it is probably boss music. I mean, that makes the most sense to me. Doing quick research on the game, I'm finding out that it is a visual novel and also a tactical role-playing video game, which I think that's a pretty interesting combo. So what I'm assuming is that the visual novel aspect of the game, you're talking to people in between battles, and maybe whatever your dialogue choices would affect the story and what happens. And it could lead to different scenarios and different types of battles, I would think. And the track itself, I mean, dang, it is really epic sounding. I know that's kind of cliche, but that's what I'm getting out of it. But I am curious, though, if there are any remixes of this track. And I know that Martyrs is the guy to find them. So yeah, I mean, overall, I think this was a really good gift for Martyrs, and I'm sure he's going to love it. We're going to move on to another gift, this time coming from Scott McElhone for The Last Rican. And Scott went with the title theme from the Sega Genesis version of WWF Super WrestleMania. And I believe that it was composed by Dean Morell. That track that you just heard, that was the title theme from the game WWF Super WrestleMania. It was composed by Dean Morell, and that this was a gift from Scott McElhone for The Last Rican. Scott was telling me that he thinks that Last Rican will like this track, and that it's old school WWF, and that it's got that twerpiness that makes it a solid non-SNES version. Which I would have to agree with him. I think that Last Rican will like this track, so I know that Last Rican is really into wrestling. And for the twerpiness, I actually think this is a pretty solid track. It's a little different than I expected it to be, and I could definitely tell that this track was made with the Gems sound font. So I know that Gems is really notorious for not sounding great, but I know that a lot of composers would use Gems on the Genesis. And I always feel like in the right hands, it can sound pretty good. And I just feel like this is an example of one that sounds pretty good. And the game itself, it seems like it's a good time if you're into wrestling. It's got all kinds of different wrestlers. So I saw that Hulk Hogan is on the cover, but you could also play as Macho Man Randy Savage. And now that I'm doing quick research on it, I guess the SNES version had exclusive wrestlers, but also the Genesis version also had exclusive wrestlers. And that while the SNES version had some wrestlers like Jake Roberts or The Undertaker, apparently on the Genesis version, you could play as the Ultimate Warrior or Shawn Michaels. And even though these are a bunch of names that I'm not really all that familiar with since I've never watched any kind of professional wrestling in my life, at least these are some names that I'm somewhat familiar with. And I'm sure that Last Rican is just losing his mind over this. And that, Scott, I know that you went the easy route, but at least this was a damn fine track, and I'm sure that Last Rican's gonna like this. We're gonna move on to our final gift amongst the VGM Journeymen with a gift from Beachykins for Troy Jan. The track is Poke Criminal from the game Mullet Mad Jack, and it was composed by Fernando Pepe and Mateus Pallotti. Track that you just heard, that was Poke Criminal from the game Mullet Mad Jack. It was composed by Fernando Pepe and Matthias Pallotti, and that this was a gift from Beachykins for Trojan. This was definitely a really cool track, and the game itself is quite a bit of fun as well. So I could best describe it as a first-person shooter roguelite, where you're constantly up against the clock, and that you have to make your way up these towers, fighting robots and all kinds of different obstacles along the way. And the game has this really cool anime slash cyberpunk style to it that, to be honest, I find really cool. And the soundtrack itself is really fantastic too. And with this track specifically, I definitely dig the 8-bit meets synthy sound. So I know that Vault Supreme would definitely like a track like this. And that Troy Jan, he's really into a lot of 8-bit and 16-bit sounding stuff. And I feel like this would be a track that he would really like. So I'm definitely thinking that Beachykins, you did a fantastic job. And I know that Troy Jan's going to like this. And that's going to just about do it for the Secret Santa Special 6. I brought Carly back for this little segment, and she has some things that she wants to say to everybody.
Well, I just wanted to say that I was really excited to participate, and thank you for everyone else that participated, and have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year.
I also want to thank everyone that participated. I believe that this was the biggest turnout for Secret Santa. I mean, I would have to look back in years past, but I'm pretty sure that this was the biggest one. So I just want to thank everyone that participated. You guys really brought some good tracks, and I'm sure that everyone's going to enjoy their gifts. And for for those of you that didn't participate, I just hope you guys like the tracks. I mean, there was a lot of good stuff. We're going to finish things off with one more gift, and this is coming from Carly for you guys. So what did you bring, Carly?
I brought Ice Rink from Honey Pop by Jonathan Wandog.
Is there a specific reason why you went with this track?
Well, I know this game gets a bad reputation, but I've been playing it and the puzzles are actually very fun. And this track in particular happens when, you go on one of your dates, which is the puzzle aspect, and there's different settings. There's like a nightclub and a cafe. And this one happens to be at an ice rink. And I don't know, it was nice and like it had that winter feel to it and the bells that were kind of Christmassy. So I thought it just fit just right.
Well, that just sounds lovely. So, yeah, we're going to play out with that track, which once again, that was Ice Rink from Honey Pop, and that it was composed by Jonathan Wandog. Have a good one, everyone, and have a happy holidays, too.